I got a juicy one for y'all today.
Ooh, yeah.
Hello from my side of the screen. I'm Leah Mojo. Welcome back to my channel where I retell stories of the Bible while putting my makeup on. If you're ever interested in what makeup products that I use, I always link them in the description box below. And if you're interested in where I got my personal study Bible from, I also link that in the description box. So grab yourself a drink, make yourself comfy, because it's going to be a long one today, okay? We got plot point after plot point after plot point. But first,
Disclaimer. I am not a pastor, nor theologian, nor historian. I am simply a lover of Jesus and makeup. That's it. I encourage you to read the good book for yourself. If you have any questions or doubts, that just makes you human. Not here to change anyone's opinions, but I do hope that this series is life-giving and opens us all up to exploring and stretching our individual faiths whilst encouraging us to think outside of ourselves. Cool? I bet. Let's get into it.
all right, last week we talked about God's love of covenants and his circumcision deal with Abraham, and also the birth of Ishmael, the son born outside of God's covenant. That was messy, but mess is tea, and I love tea. So today's Bible story will be coming from Genesis chapters 18 through 21. And boy, if you thought last week was messy, you just wait. You just wait. Eyes all boom. We start today's story with Abe just chilling outside of his tent one hot day, and the Lord decides to pay him a visit. But God decides to visit him in the form of three men. And Abe knew immediately that these three men must have been God because of how he reacts. He literally runs over to them and throws himself at their feet, bowing before them. And this was not how you would greet the normal everyday passerby. Like, this is how you would greet royalty. And Abe also goes out of his way to serve these men. Like, oh my God, please let me get you some water. Like, are you tired? Do you want to come in, rest your feet? Like, I'll wash your feet. Must be hungry. You know what I'm saying? Let me cook for you. I got some grapes in the bag. And the three men were like, yeah, that's cool. So Abe runs in the tent to hurry up and tell his wife, Sarah, what's going on. And he's like, babe, we got company. Really important company. So hurry up and bake some bread or something. And then he runs to find a real thick, juicy cow and find a servant to prepare it for him. He's like, yo, throw Bessie on the grill right quick. We got company. Wink, wink. And he gets some milk curds, which probably back in the day was a lot more appetizing sounding. So don't gag at my references of milk curds, because ew. Think of it as he was prepping like a charcuterie board or something. Once the cow is cooked, he goes ahead and serves the men. So Abe is standing there awkwardly, under his tree, watching them eat. Like when you cook for a guest that you're really excited is at your house, you're just standing there leering at them. Hope you're enjoying all my food that I made for you. Don't do that. It's weird. Speaking of weird, all of a sudden, at the same time, all of the men stop eating and ask Abe at the same time,
Where is your wife, Sarah?
Can y'all not? That's so creepy. I'm glad that Abe knew that it was God sitting there, because I would have been like, hold up. Nah, y'all got to get y'all supernatural tales out of my house. That was weird. So Abe answers him, or them, oh yeah, she's right in the tent. She's right over there. So one of the men then tells Abe, I will return this time next year, and Sarah will have a son. Now, at that time, Sarah is actually standing at the entrance of the tent. So she can hear them. She can hear what's going on. Now remember, both Abe and Sarah are both mega old at this point. And Sarah is way past childbearing age. Yeah, so she knows this. And she actually lets out a little chuckle. Probably a little eye roll of disbelief, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, right. Me have a kid. Now. You waited until I was super old to give me what I've wanted all my life? Wow. So once she had this thought, the men all pause and ask Abe, why did your wife laugh and say, will I really have a son now that I'm old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? I will return to you next year, and Sarah will have a son. So Sarah was a little shook, oh snap, they heard me? So she lies and is like, I didn't laugh. But the Lord aka the three men, were like, yes, yes, you did. Oh, once again, Sarah, pull yourself together, girl. You are embarrassing yourself. God was like, if I told you you would have a son.
I said what I said. Okay, well, what you said was some bull.
Somebody needed to hear that on today. Amen. Moving right along. Okay. They finish eating, and as they're leaving, they're walking out. Abe is walking out with them, trying to be a really good host or whatever, see them on their way. And Abe's place has a pretty good view of Sodom and Gomorrah, like it's looking out over the city. So he can see all the scene. So Abe and the men are looking out over the city, and the Lord says, should I tell Abe what I plan to do? He will surely become a great nation, and I have chosen him to lead his family, and his descendants will worship me and live right before me so that I will bring to pass what I promised him. He's almost like having a conversation with himself as multiple beings. Do that make sense? Anyway, Abe was probably mad confused, like, what? So the Lord tells him, all right, listen, Abe, the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great that I need to go down there and see if it's as bad as it seems. He's God. I mean, he already knew, but he said, let me just go ahead and look right quick. So two of the men turn away and go towards the city, but one being, God, was standing before Abe still. I imagine that actually looked pretty dope, like kind of spooky, but pretty dope. Just like three men just split, like two of them walk away and then one's still standing there. That's so cool. So God is standing before Abe, and Abe is like, wait. Hold up. Kind of piecing together what God plans to do. Like he knows God well enough at this point. And Abe is like, you would destroy the city? No, no. That's not even like you to destroy the city. I mean, what about the righteous people? What about the innocent people? What about them? They'll die too. And God is like, what innocent people? If I find 50 righteous people, I will spare the cities for their sake. So Abe lets this statement sink in, and he's like, kind of starts to question it a little bit. He's like, 50 is a big number. Hold up. And then he's like, God, I am but your humble servant. I am but dust. You know what I mean? What do I know? What say you? We drop that number down to 45. 45 people. If I find 45 righteous people, I will spare the cities for their sake. Okay, wow. Wow. Okay, maybe 45 is too big of a number. What say you 40 people? If there's 40 righteous people, I will spare the city for their sake. God, I am but ash and dust. What about 30 people? There's gotta be 30. If there's 30 righteous people, I will spare the city for their sake. 20. Surely there's 20. If there's 20 righteous people, I will spare the city for their sake. Okay. I am nothing. I know nothing compared to your great majestic majesty and omnipotence and 10? For the sake of 10 righteous people in Sodom and Gomorrah, I will spare the city for their sake. And the point was made. Point being, Sodom and Gomorrah are doomed. Because in that moment, Abe realized what God already knew, that it won't even 10 righteous people in the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. So God leaves, Abe digresses, and he goes home. Meanwhile, the two other divine men were making their way downtown to Sodom and Gomorrah. When they get there, who do they see chilling in the gateway of the city? This lot. So he also knows that these men are important. He can just feel the presence of God radiating from them. So he gets up, runs over to them, and grovels at their feet, much like Abraham did. Please come rest at my home. Let me feed you. You must be tired. Kick your feet up. Spend the night. But they're both like, no. Because they know they came here on a mission, right? They know what they're there to do. They're there to destroy the cities. And they're like, no, we'll spend the night elsewhere. But Lot is being like stage 5 clinger status and refuses to relent until the men are like, fine, we'll come to your house, we'll eat, we'll rest, but that's all we can promise. So they get there and Lot starts preparing a feast for them. The good food with the name brand ingredients. I mean, them off brands do be hitting though, but Lot was like, nah, we gonna give them the real stuff today. Anyway, so they're eating, fueling their probably well-muscled bodies and minding their divine business. And Lot all of a sudden starts getting knocks at the door. Who that? And when Lot doesn't immediately go answer them, the knocks start turning into this banging, like these banging knots, like they're really trying to get into the house. And now remember, this is BC, so these houses ain't nothing but dirt and mortar. I mean, these doors and walls ain't but so thick. Turns out, it's a whole mob outside Lot's house. Every man in the city, young and old, were surrounding this house. And they're calling out to Lot, talking about some, open up. Who them fine young men you got up in there? Bring them out. We trying to have some fun with them. And by fun, I do mean the audacity. I mean, so Lot, being the gracious host that he is, goes out and tries to appease the lustful mob. And he shuts the door tight behind him so that nobody can break in. Lot is like, no, my friends, let's not do this. This is wicked. Listen, I have 2 virgin daughters. Take them instead. But please don't do anything to these 2 men that have come to visit. Pause, because that was high-key trifling, Lot. We not just gonna skip over you offering to trade your daughters off like that. I know culturally in that day, being a good host was super important, but at the expense of your daughters, bro? What do I know? So anyway, the men were like, boy, move. We don't want your crusty daughters. Where the men's at? Ain't you a foreigner anyway? We don't gotta listen to you coming up in here telling us what to do.
It doesn't even go here.
Because remember, Lot wasn't from there. He moved to that territory when him and Abe were both too rich to live in the same city. So the men were like, you're not even from here, move, or we finna treat you worse than we treat them. Like making threats on Lot's life now. So this mob is just growing stronger to the point where they're almost about to break the door down. The 2 men were like, you know what? They go ahead and pull Lot back into the house real quick and slam the door behind them. And then, get this, they strike all of the men outside, young and old, with blindness so that they couldn't find the door. Savage. So once they're all safely back inside Lot's house, they ask Lot, listen, do you have anyone else in the city that you might want to save? Any family besides the people in this house that you want to get out of this city? You need to get whatever kinfolk you got and get out of here. The sin here is so wretched that God sent us to destroy this place. So Lot starts freaking out, like, oh my God, I need to get my future sons-in-law out of here. 2 men had already proposed to Lot's daughters. So he goes to find them and tell them what's about to happen. And they need to come with him immediately to leave the city. But they thought he was just joking or crazy. And I'm thinking, like, why would he be playing about something like that? Anyway, the angels, or divine beings of God, were like, listen, dawn is fast approaching and you need to be gone. Like now. You and your family need to get out of here this second. Otherwise, you guys are going to die too. So Lot is like super hesitant at this point, either not wanting to believe them or still thinking of people that he could save. These angels were like, well, we don't got time for this. Move. So they grab his hand and the hands of his family, which included Lot's wife and his 2 daughters, and they flee the city. Once they're out, the angels are like, okay, you guys need to keep running and do not stop until you hit those mountains up there. And do not, no matter what, do not look back. And Lot's like, wait. Thank you guys so much for sparing our lives, but I can't make it to the mountains. There's a smaller town nearby. Like, can we stop there instead? And the angels are like, fine. We won't destroy that area, but please hurry up and get there. Go now. So Lot and his wife and daughters start bolting to this town. And by the time they were reaching the outskirts of the small town, I think it was called Zoar, it was sunrise. And as soon as that sun peeked through that sky, the Lord started raining down fire and brimstone on the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. Sounds of chaos and burning destruction erupted in the distance. And Lot was probably repeating in his head, don't turn around, don't look back, don't turn around. He might have even shouted it to his family over the sounds of mayhem, just to remind them what the angels had said. And they were close, so close, probably exhausted, drenched in sweat and dirt, only mere yards away from the safety of that town. And Lot's wife makes a grave mistake. She turns around and looks back towards the burning cities, though the angels instructed them not to. And she was instantly turned into a statued pillar of salt. R.I.P. to Lot's wife. Or should I say S.I.P. for stand in place, because... Anyway, our dear Abraham wakes up early that morning, goes down and looks at the burning ashes of the former cities. Everything and everyone inside of them was gone. They truly had been lit. No pun intended. Whew. Anyway, with his wife now living that salt life, Lot and his 2 daughters went ahead and migrated towards the mountains like those angels had originally suggested. He was scared to stay in that small town that they had stopped in, and the Bible doesn't say why, but I could imagine. Some rando and his 2 daughters showing up to my town from a city that just got rained on, fire and brimstone, and destroyed? Oh no. No, don't bring your sin up in here. We ain't next. So Lot and his 2 daughters make it to the mountains, and they find this cave to live in. So one day, the 2 daughters are talking to each other. And the oldest is like, wow, we really in this cave with no husbands. We have no one to give us children. But our father is old. Let's get him drunk and lie with him to preserve our family line, you know? We can just preserve it through our father.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
And the little sister disagrees with it. Y'all nasty, like true products of Sodom and Gomorrah. I mean, anyway, so night comes and they get Lot super drunk. And I mean super drunk on some wine. And at first I was like, well, how drunk did this man get? But you know what? I'm sure he was super beyond willing to drink because, I mean, look at his last 48 hours. Completely unaware of his trifling daughter's scheming, he kind of passes out a little bit, and in comes his oldest daughter, going to do with the daddy. Ugh. And Lot was so wasted that he had no idea when she even laid down or when she even got up. I mean, maybe he thought he was dreaming. So the next day, the oldest sister is talking to the baby sister and is like, all right, last night was my turn. Tonight's your turn. I cannot with these girls. Like, what? Anyway, so night comes and the same thing happens. Lot gets super drunk again, and the little sister does the same thing that her big sister did. My man's had to be drunk. Trashed. Incoherent. And wouldn't you know, both of these floozies got pregnant by their daddy. And the oldest daughter named her son Moab, and the youngest daughter named her son Ben-Ami. The Bible says that this is where the Moabite people originated from, and the Ammonite people? Yeah, Ammonite people originated from. So, there's that. It seems like this little family unit was pretty murky from the jump, because remember, Lot really did try to sacrifice his 2 daughters. Maybe this was like a form of payback for them. I don't know. It's messy. Y'all nasty. Moving back to Sarah and Abraham, because Lot and his little family are just a bit too much. So Abe and Sarah moved to this place called Gerar. I guess they didn't like the view of what used to be Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, Gerar is literally going to be somewhat of a repeat of what happened in Egypt with Abe and Sarah. Abe knows his wife is hot, which means men will want her and try to kill him. Got it. So they put on their sister and brother act again. Yay. Side note, Sarah gotta be fine in her old age to warrant this type of charade again. What's your beauty secret, sis? Drop the deeds. So, of course, the king of Gerar, whose name was Abimelech, sees Sarah and is like, shawty a little baddie. She about to be my boo thing. And they can't deny the king, so Abimelech takes Sarah and gets her to move in with him. But he doesn't immediately sleep with her. Before he can get any goods, God visits Abimelech in a dream and tells him, you're as good as dead for taking that woman. She is definitely married. Now Abimelech is like, wait, hold up. Lord, you would punish an innocent man? I mean, he said that she was his sister, and she said that he was her brother. So I didn't even do anything wrong. And God is like, yeah, I know you didn't know, which is why I'm telling you now, in a dream, before you touch her. Now, send her back to her husband. He's my prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. If you don't send her back, you and everyone you know will suffer the consequences. Whew, this is a lot. So Abimelech wakes up in the morning with this fresh revelation of doom, and he tells his officials, like, hey, y'all not gonna believe this, man. So he starts telling them about Abe and Sarah really being married to each other and not being siblings, and also about the threat that God had made to him. And this really scared them, like, as it should. I mean, have y'all not seen Sodom and Gomorrah? Oh, you haven't? That's because it's destroyed, okay? It's destroyed because of sin. So Abimelech immediately calls for Abe and is like, bruh, what is your problem? Okay, what have you done to us? What did I ever do to you to deserve this type of spite on my kingdom? And Abe, probably bashful, fumbling for words.
I didn't think that there was any fear of God in this place. I just expected you guys to see my wife and immediately take her and kill me to get me out of the way. Besides, I didn't really lie. I mean, technically, she is my sister, kinda. She's my half-sister. She's the daughter of my father, not my mother, see? That's okay where I come from. So when we first left our original home, and she agreed to go along with this whole brother and sister thing, you know, keep me alive.
And somehow, miraculously, Abimelech, the king, has an ounce of sympathy for Abe. Wow. The king not only lets Abe live, because had it been me, it would have been death on sight, but he also returns Sarah to him with cattle and sheep and servants. And he tells Abe, my land is before you. Live wherever you'd like. How, Sway? How do you lie to the king, bring the wrath of God on his kingdom, and get him to bless you with more wealth? Wow, what am I doing wrong? And to top it all off, he gonna say to Sarah, I'm going to give your brother 1,000 shekels of silver to repay any offense that I may have caused you. And then this, the part right here, Abe then prays to God, asking him to forgive the king for his unknown transgression. And here you learn that God not only forgives the king, Abimelech, for his intended plans with Sarah, but he also lifts the curse that he placed on the palace as soon as Sarah stepped foot in there. He placed a curse on the palace as soon as Sarah went in there. God had actually kept all of the women in the palace from conceiving just because of Sarah's presence. Had she stayed there, won't finna be no births. All y'all wombs barren. Now this one left me scratching my head because none of that went the way I expected it to go. But his ways are higher, amen? So, some time passes and God comes through on his promise. He was gracious to Sarah and allowed her to give birth to a son, just like he had said. And they were obedient and named him Isaac. And little baby Isaac was circumcised on his 8th day in the world, just as the Lord had instructed. Abe was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born. 100 years old. Sarah says, you know, God is funny. He really makes me laugh, you know what I mean? And when people hear about this, it'll bring them laughter, just like it brought me laughter. I mean, it really do be like that sometimes, you know? Now, Abe threw a grand party when Isaac was circumcised. But his older brother Ishmael was being a brat and mocking him at this party. So Sarah sees this and is not happy. So she tells Abe, that child and his mother have got to go. Now, Abe is kind of stressed out by this because, after all, Ishmael is still his son. So God tells Abe, you know what? Don't stress about it. Just do as your wife Sarah tells you, because it's through Isaac that your descendants will come. Don't worry, though, because Ishmael will still become a great nation. He is also your child. So early the next morning, Abe gathers some water and some supplies for Hagar and Ishmael, and he sends them on their way. They end up wandering through the desert for miles. And the water had run out at this point, because I'm sure it was like super hot. Now, Hagar knew if they didn't have water, they would both die. And she was pretty depressed by this. And knowing what doom was to come, she put her son Ishmael under a shrub and left him there and walked away sobbing. She was so heartbroken. She was just like, I can't watch my son die. I just can't. Meanwhile, God hears Ishmael crying under the shrub. And he sends an angel of the Lord to talk to Hagar. The angel tells Hagar, don't be afraid. God hears the boy and he knows what's going on. Go back for him and raise him up well. I will make him a great nation. I promise. So God opens Hagar's tear-stained and swollen eyes and she sees a well in front of her, a well of water. So she runs to fill the canteen and then runs to find Ishmael back under the shrub. And she lets him drink the water, inevitably saving his life. Now, God remained with Ishmael as he grew. He lived in the desert and became a skilled archer. And eventually, he marries an Egyptian woman. Good for them. You know, happy endings, you know what I mean? So we're going to end today's video with a treaty made between Abimelech and Abraham. Now keep in mind, it had been a couple years, so Abe had lived in the land that Abimelech ruled for some years now. So they're all older. So Abe goes to Abimelech and brings up something about a well that had gone missing from his camp. Now, at first when I was reading that, I was just like, is that the same well that appeared before Hagar a couple of years back? But like, I don't think it's the same well. Anyway, Abe thinks that Abimelech's servants are the ones who took the well. And Abimelech is like, I don't know who did this. This is the first time I'm hearing about it. And he's also like, listen, Abe, I don't want to get into nothing with you because I know the Lord is on your side. You one of his special chosen people. Like, listen, I know that God favors you. So I need you to promise me that you're not going to have the wrath of God brought on me or my kingdom like that almost debacle we had some years back. Not only me, but my descendants as well. So Abe agrees to this and he brings Abimelech some sheep and some cattle as a gift. He also sets aside 7 lambs. So Abimelech sees this and he's just like, what's the meaning of these 7 lambs? Like, why are they separated from the rest? And Abe responds, I want you to take these 7 lambs as a witness that the well belongs to me. And Abimelech is like, okay. So now they have this treaty. And I think it's a little bit more significant than just the well. I think it also just signifies that while Abe lives in Abimelech's land, that he won't have God bring a wrath upon Abimelech or his kingdom. So they called it the Treaty of Beersheba because that's the name of the place where the well resides. And after that, Abe goes home and he worships the Lord. So there's that. That was a lot, y'all. Them 3 chapters was packed to the brim with plot points. And they was piping hot plot points. That last little treaty segment was the most uneventful thing that happened this whole video. Y'all all right? Y'all still with me? Let me just summarize right fast to make sure that everyone's on the same page, okay? First thing that had happened was God swiftly reminded Sarah that he had said what he had said about her having a son. Then God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot and his family are saved from the destruction, minus his wife, because she ain't listen. Lot becomes a daddy and a granddaddy to the same kids. Abe and Sarah pulling their same sibling tricks and almost tie the tubes of King Abimelech's kingdom. And Isaac, the heir that was promised, is finally born. But Hagar and Ishmael are banished. God keeps them safe into Ishmael's adulthood. And now we have a treaty between Abraham and King Abimelech. Genesis really is popping. Like, I'm tired and we're only halfway through. Anyway, y'all like this look? I feel like it slaps. What y'all think? And I know y'all got some thoughts about today's story, so go ahead and comment down below. Let's start a discussion. Well, that about wraps up today's Bible story and this beautiful makeup look. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Be sure to like this video if you like this video and subscribe for more content. And follow me on Instagram because that's where I be. And I will see you guys very soon for next week's story where we dive a little bit deeper into what it means to truly love something. Could you give it up? Could you sacrifice it? Just a little foreshadowing. Okay, love you. Bye.